The morning sun cast long shadows across the pristine backyard as Sarah stepped onto her deck, coffee mug in hand. What she saw made her blood run cold. Her crystal-clear pool had transformed overnight into a shocking bubblegum pink. But it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a prank. And when her neighbor Karen emerged from behind the fence with that signature smirk, this was about a woman who had finally crossed a line she could never uncross. Sarah Mitchell had always prided herself on being reasonable, 34 years old, divorced for 2 years, and determined to build a peaceful life in her suburban Denver neighborhood. She'd bought the house on Maple Street specifically for its tranquil, atmosphere-mature trees, well-maintained lawns, and neighbors who minded their own business. The first sign of trouble had been the property line dispute 6 months ago. Karen Walsh, the 40-something blonde who lived in the McMansion next door, had insisted Sarah's new fence was 3 inches. Onto her property, 3 inches, Sarah had hired a surveyor, paid $800, and proven the fence was exactly where it should be. Then came the noise complaints. Karen called the city about Sarah's wind chimes. Apparently they were disturbing the peace at 7 in the morning. The complaints were dismissed, but the message was clear. Karen Walsh was not done with her. The pool installation had been Sarah's dream come true. After years of apartment living, she'd finally saved enough to put in a modest in-ground pool. Nothing fancy, just a clean rectangle of blue water where she could swim laps and maybe host a barbecue or two. She'd been meticulous about permits, hired licensed contractors. Then, Sarah had noticed Karen's increasingly frequent appearances at her fence line. Always with that measuring stare, always with something to criticize. The pool equipment was too loud. The contractor's trucks blocked her view. Sarah's friends were parking inconsiderately when they came over to swim. This morning, Sarah stood on her deck in her robe, coffee growing cold in her hands, staring at water that looked like liquefied cotton candy, impossibly pink. Not a light tint, not a subtle, hue-bright, shocking Pepto-Bismol pink that seemed to glow in the morning light. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Equipment malfunction, some kind of algae, chemical reaction. She was pulling out her phone to call the pool company when she heard the distinctive sound of Karen's back door sliding open. Footsteps on gravel. The creak of the gate that separated their properties. "Oh my goodness, Sarah, what happened to your pool?" Sarah turned to find Karen standing at the fence line, and something in her neighbor's tone made her stomach clench. There was no genuine concern in Karen's voice, just a barely concealed satisfaction. Like someone admiring their handiwork. "I have no idea," Sarah replied carefully. "I just discovered it like this." Karen stepped closer to the fence, her manicured fingers gripping the white pickets. She was dressed in her usual morning attire, expensive athleisure wear that had never seen a gym. Made her look both younger and harder than her 42 years. "Pink," Karen mused, tilting her head like she was examining a painting. "You know, I have to say, it actually matches my vibe perfectly. I've been redecorating my master bedroom in this exact shade." The words hit Sarah like a slap. "Oh yes, I just redid everything in dusty rose and blush tones. Very trendy right now. Though I have to say, I never expected to see it in a pool." Karen's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. How ... unique. Sarah felt heat rising in her chest. "Karen, do you know anything about what happened to my pool?" "Me?" Karen's eyes widened in theatrical surprise. "Sarah, why would you think I'd know anything about your pool maintenance issues? I don't even swim. This isn't a maintenance issue. Would vandalize your property? Because that would be..." Karen's expression remained perfectly composed. "Sure, your pool company will figure it out. Though I have to warn you, the Homeowners Association might have something to say about unconventional pool colors. There are standards to maintain in this neighborhood." "Standards," Sarah's voice cracked. "You're threatening to call the HOA. I'm just saying that some people work very hard to maintain property values around here. We can't have things that ... stand out too much." Sarah felt the familiar sensation of being trapped in Karen's web of passive-aggressive manipulation. Every word was carefully chosen, every implication deniable. This time, Karen had crossed a line from harassment into outright sabotage. "If you had anything to do with this, I hope you're not planning to make accusations you can't prove," Karen interrupted smoothly, "because that would be very unfortunate for our neighborly relationship." gone white. I think, Karen continued, glancing at her designer watch, pink pools are so attention-grabbing. And you know how people talk. With that, Karen turned on her heel and walked back toward her house, leaving Sarah alone with her fluorescent pink pool and the dawning realization that she was in a war she'd never signed up for. Sarah pulled out her phone and dialed the pool company's emergency line. Karen Walsh had just made the biggest mistake of her life. What Karen didn't know was that she'd spent the last 6 months documenting every interaction, every complaint, every petty act of aggression. And now, staring at the evidence of Karen's escalation, Sarah realized she was done playing defense. The pool company answered on the 4th ring. Clearwater Pools. This is Mike. Mike, this is Sarah Mitchell on Maple Street. I need someone here immediately. Someone has deliberately contaminated my pool, and I need evidence for the police. Report I'm about to file. As Sarah spoke, she saw Karen's curtain twitch in the upstairs window. Good. Let her watch. Let her wonder what Sarah was planning. Because if Karen thought turning her pool pink was some kind of victory, she was about to learn that Sarah Mitchell was just getting started. The war for Maple Street had officially begun, and Sarah had no intention of losing. Mike from Clearwater Pools arrived 45 minutes later, his work truck rumbling to a stop in Sarah's driveway. He was a weathered man in his 50s, with calloused hands and the kind of direct manner that came from 30 years of dealing with pool emergencies, but when he saw the pink water, his usual confident demeanor faltered. Jesus Christ, he muttered, kneeling beside the pool's edge. I've never seen anything like this. She'd spent the last 45 minutes photographing everything: the pool, the equipment, the fence line, even the neighbors' yards. If this was going to court, she needed documentation. Someone did this deliberately, she said, watching Mike dip a testing strip into the fluorescent water. Oh, absolutely. This is food coloring, massive amounts of it. Had to be gallons, too. Get this, saturation. He stood, shaking his head. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. This isn't some teenage prank, this is calculated. How long to fix it? Mike sucked air through his teeth. We're talking about draining the entire pool, cleaning the system, refilling, and rebalancing. Week, maybe 2. Account cringe. How much? Couple thousand, minimum. Could be more if there's permanent damage. Sarah turned to find Karen in her backyard, watering plants with a designer hose attachment. She was wearing white capri pants and a pink blouse that was so perfectly matched to the pool water that Sarah's mouth fell open. Excuse me, Sarah called out, especially when there are ... complications. Karen's smile was serene. We're so glad we went with the koi pond instead. Mike glanced between the two women, clearly sensing the tension. Ma'am, you know anything about what happened here? Me? Goodness, no. I don't know the first thing about pools, though I have to say, that shade of pink is really quite lovely. Ex-husband Danny saw the news about your pool on Facebook. Karen posted photos. You okay? Sarah's vision tunneled. You posted photos of my pool on Facebook. Karen looked genuinely confused. Oh, was that wrong? I just thought it was so unusual. I had to share. The color is just so ... vibrant. I tagged you, of course. The caption read, when your neighbor's pool maintenance goes wrong. Hashtag suburban living, hashtag pool problems, hashtag maple LSTREET. The post had 40 likes and 23 comments. Sarah scrolled through them, her fury building with each response. Oh my God, Karen, how does something like this even happen? Poor Sarah. That's going to be expensive to fix. Wait, is this the same neighbor who had the fence dispute? Yikes. Maybe time to hire a different pool company. Sarah's heart sank. No, I never thought I'd need them. I'd recommend installing some and filing a police report. This is criminal mischief. At minimum, some of its sweetness. After all, nobody was hurt. Property damage is property damage, Mike replied firmly, and this is substantial property damage. Sarah watched Karen's expression shift slightly the first crack in her perfect facade. Karen, I need you to delete that Facebook post. Delete it. But why? It's just a photo. Because it's my property, and I didn't give you permission to post it. Well, technically, I took the photo from my own yard, and it's not like I was trespassing. Sarah felt something snap inside her. You're enjoying this. I'm sorry, this whole thing. Karen's mask slipped entirely for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. Sarah, I think you're being paranoid. Of ... everything ... is getting to you. The implied reference to Sarah's divorce was like a slap. Karen had never mentioned it directly before, but the barb hit its mark. Sarah felt her cheeks burn. I'll be in touch about the police report, Sarah said, her voice deadly calm. Mike packed up his testing equipment and handed Sarah his card. I'll get you a written estimate by this afternoon for the insurance claim. After he left, Sarah stood alone in her backyard, staring at the pink water that was already starting to fade slightly in the afternoon sun. Sarah's phone rang, her sister Lisa, calling from California. Sarah, Danny texted me about your pool. Are you okay? I'm fine, Sarah. Led sinking into one of her patio chairs, he said someone vandalized it and posted photos online. Sarah closed her eyes. It's my neighbor. She's trying to drive me out of here. What do you mean? The fence dispute? The noise complaints? Now this? She's systematically making my life hell. And she's doing it in a way that makes me look like the crazy one. Sarah, that's harassment. I need to? What? Call the police. I already am. But she's smart, Lisa. Everything she does is just plausible enough to deny the pool thing. She claimed it was teenagers, or vandals, or that I did it myself for attention. Did you do it for attention? The question hung in the air, and Sarah realized with horror that even her own sister was starting to doubt her. No, she said. I'm sorry, it's just the whole situation sounds so bizarre. After ending the call, Sarah sat in the growing twilight, watching the pink water ripple in the evening breeze. She thought about Karen's perfect timing, her matching outfit, her carefully worded comments. Every detail had been planned. Buzzed with a notification, someone had tagged her in a comment on Karen's Facebook post. She opened it to find a comment from Janet Morrison, who lived 3 houses down. Sarah, I saw someone in your backyard around 2 a.m. last night. I thought it was you, but now I'm wondering, should I call the police? Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. A witness. Finally, a witness. She was typing a response when her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, Sarah Mitchell. Yes, this is Detective Rodriguez with Denver PD. We received a complaint about harassment and wanted to schedule a time to speak with you. Well, that's the thing. The complaint wasn't about you being harassed. It was about you harassing your neighbor. A Mrs. Karen Walsh claims you've been making threats and false accusations. She's filed for a restraining order. Onto the concrete, through the gathering darkness, she could see Karen's silhouette in her kitchen window. Phone pressed to her ear, watching Sarah's yard with the patience of a predator. Sarah's hands shook as she picked up her phone. Detective Rodriguez was still on the line, his voice patient but professional. Mrs. Mitchell, are you there? I'm here, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. I'd like to schedule a time to discuss Mrs. Walsh's complaint. Are you available tomorrow morning? Sarah's mind raced. Everything was spinning out of control. Detective, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm the victim here. Someone vandalized my pool, ma'am. I understand this is a complex situation. That's why we need to talk. Can you come to the station at 10 a.m.? After agreeing to the meeting, Sarah sat in her darkened backyard, staring at the pink water that now looked black in the moonlight. She felt like she was drowning in Karen's web of manipulation, each struggle only tangling her deeper. Her phone buzzed. A text from Janet Morrison. Sarah, I just wanted to let you know Karen stopped by earlier. She said you've been under a lot of stress since your divorce and that she's worried about you. She asked me not to mention what I saw the other night because it might make things worse for you. I'm confused. Are you okay? Sarah's stomach dropped. Karen was already working on the witnesses, spinning a narrative of Sarah as an unstable divorcee. The brilliance of it was sickening. She called Janet directly. Janet, it's Sarah. About what you saw last night. Oh, honey, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. Karen explained that you've been having a rough time, and I don't want to add to your stress, Janet. Please, what exactly did you see? There was a long pause. Well, I was up with the baby around 2 a.m., and I saw someone in your backyard. They were by your pool for maybe 20 minutes. I assumed it was you, but the person seemed ... smaller, and they were wearing all dark clothes. Sarah's pulse quickened. Did you see where they came from? That's the thing, they seemed to come from the direction of Karen's yard. But Karen said, you sometimes have trouble sleeping and walk around your yard at night. She was just looking out for you. The manipulation was breathtaking. Karen had anticipated every move, every potential witness, every avenue of escape. She'd built a perfect narrative where Sarah was the troubled neighbor and Karen was the concerned citizen trying to help. Janet, I need you to know that I didn't vandalize my own pool. Someone else did this. And Sarah, honey, maybe you should talk to someone, a professional. Karen mentioned there are some great therapists in the area who specialize in adjustment issues. After Janet hung up, Sarah felt the full weight of her isolation. Karen had poisoned the well with the neighbors, filed a preemptive legal strike, and positioned herself as the reasonable party concerned about Sarah's mental health. But Sarah wasn't done. Not yet. She spent the next 3 hours researching everything she could about Karen Walsh. Social media profiles, property records, business registrations. What she found made her blood run cold. Karen had done this before. Her previous address was in Aurora, where she'd lived for 8 years before moving to Maple Street. Sarah found a local newspaper article from 18 months ago about a neighborhood dispute that had ended with restraining orders and a civil lawsuit. The victim was a single mother named Maria Santos, who'd claimed Karen had systematically harassed her family over a property line dispute. Maria Santos had lost the lawsuit. The judge had ruled that she was an unreliable witness with a history of mental health issues. 6 months later, Maria had sold her house at a significant loss and moved out of state. Sarah's hands trembled as she found Maria's current address in Phoenix. It was nearly midnight, but she had to try. She dialed the number listed in the white pages. Hello. The voice was cautious, tired. Is this Maria Santos? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I live in Denver, and I think Karen Walsh is doing to me what she did to you. The silence stretched so long, Sarah thought. The call had dropped. Maria, oh my God, Maria whispered. She moved to Denver. You know her? Know her. She destroyed my life. My kids and I had to start over completely. Nobody believed me about what she was doing. Sarah felt a surge of validation mixed with terror. What did she do to you? It started with a property dispute, then escalated to harassment, vandalism, false complaints to CPS about my parenting. She convinced everyone I was having a breakdown. The restraining order, the lawsuit, it was all her. She's a sociopath, Sarah. A brilliant, calculating sociopath. How did she do it? The same way she's probably doing it to you. She presents herself as the reasonable neighbor trying to help a troubled person. She documents everything, twists every interaction, and builds a perfect case that you're the problem. By the time you realize what's happening, she's already won. Sarah's voice cracked. She's already filed a restraining order against me, and she's convinced the neighbors I'm unstable. Listen to me very carefully, Maria said, her voice urgent. You need to start documenting everything, every interaction, every witness conversation, every piece of evidence, and you need to do it now before she completely destroys your credibility. But the police will believe whoever seems more credible, and trust me, Karen seems very credible. She's had years to perfect this. Sarah felt despair creeping in. So what do? You fight back, but you fight smart. Karen's weakness is her arrogance. She thinks she's untouchable, that she can keep doing this forever, but she's not as careful as she thinks she is. Maria walked Sarah through everything. She wished she'd known during her own ordeal how to document incidents, how to gather evidence, how to build a case that couldn't be dismissed. Most importantly, how to resist Karen's psychological manipulation. The hardest part, Maria said, is that she'll make you doubt yourself. She'll make you wonder if you're really the crazy one. Don't let her trust your instincts. Trust what you know to be true. At 1:30 a.m., Sarah finally hung up the phone. She felt like she'd been given a roadmap for survival, but the path ahead looked treacherous. Karen had a significant head start, and she'd already begun poisoning the well. But Sarah had something. Karen didn't know about Maria Santos, a witness to Karen's pattern of behavior. Evidence that this wasn't an isolated incident, but a calculated campaign by a serial harasser. Sarah looked out at her pink pool, no longer seeing it as a symbol of her humiliation, but as evidence of Karen's crimes. Tomorrow, she would meet with Detective Rodriguez. She would tell him about Maria Santos and the pattern of harassment. She would show him that Karen Walsh was not the concerned neighbor she pretended to be. As she headed inside, Sarah caught a glimpse of movement in upstairs window. Even at this hour, Karen was watching. Always watching. But now, Sarah was watching back. And she had allies Karen didn't know about. The war was far from over, and Sarah had just discovered her enemy's greatest weakness. Karen Walsh had done this before, and she'd left a trail of victims in her wake. Sarah wouldn't be the next one. She refused to be the next one. Walking into her house, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope, dangerous, determined hope that burned like a flame in her chest. Karen Walsh was about to learn that Sarah Mitchell wasn't Maria Santos. She wasn't going to run, and she wasn't going to break. She was going to fight. Sarah arrived at the Denver Police Department at 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes early and armed with a manila folder thick with evidence. She'd spent the hours before dawn printing everything. Maria Santos' story, property records showing Karen's pattern of moves, screenshots of social media posts, and detailed timelines of every incident. Detective Rodriguez was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with intelligent eyes and the kind of measured demeanor that suggested he'd seen enough neighborhood disputes to know they could get ugly fast. Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for coming in. I want to start by saying that we take all harassment complaints seriously, regardless of who files them. Sarah nodded, setting her folder on the desk between them. Detective, I need you to know that Karen Walsh has done this before. She's a serial harasser who targets single women and Mrs. Mitchell. Let's start with the current situation. Mrs. Walsh claims you've been making threats against her, following her around the neighborhood, and making false accusations about her involvement in your pool incident. Sarah's prepared speech died in her throat. She said, I was following her. She has photos of you in your yard, apparently watching her house. She also has witness statements from neighbors expressing concern about your behavior. Detective Rodriguez slid a thin file across the desk. Sarah opened it to find photos of herself taken from Karen's property, showing Sarah standing in her yard, looking toward Karen's house. The timestamps showed various dates over the past month. These were taken without my knowledge or consent, Sarah said, her voice rising. She's been surveilling me. Mrs. Walsh says she only started documenting your behavior after you began making accusations about her involvement in your pool vandalism. She's provided evidence that you've been posting on social media about her. What? I haven't posted anything about her. Detective Rodriguez pulled out his phone and showed her a screenshot. It was from a local Facebook group called Maple Street Neighbors, and the post was attributed to Sarah's account. Has anyone else had problems with Karen Walsh? She's been harassing me for months, and I think she vandalized my pool. Be careful around her. Sarah stared at the screen, her mouth dry. I didn't write this. I'm not even a member of that group. The post came from your account, Mrs. Mitchell, and it generated quite a bit of discussion. Several neighbors expressed concern about your mental state. Sarah's hands shook as she scrolled through the comments. Neighbors she barely knew were discussing her divorce, her erratic behavior, and her paranoid accusations. Karen had commented multiple times, each response dripping with concern and measured reasonableness. Someone hacked my account, Sarah insisted. Karen did this. She's been planning this for months. Mrs. Mitchell, I understand this is a stressful situation, but detective, please, look at this. Sarah opened her folder and pulled out the newspaper article about Maria Santos. Karen did the exact same thing to another woman in Aurora. Property dispute, harassment, false accusations of mental instability. It's a pattern. Detective Rodriguez read the article, his expression neutral. This is from 18 months ago, and according to court records, Ms. Santos' claims were found to be unsubstantiated, because Karen is that good at what she does. She destroyed Maria's credibility, just like she's destroying mine. Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to understand something. The evidence suggests that you're the one engaged in a pattern of harassment. Mrs. Walsh has documented months of incidents, multiple witnesses, and now you're bringing me theories about past behavior that was already investigated and dismissed. Sarah felt the walls closing in. Karen had been building this case for months, maybe from the moment Sarah had moved in. What about the pool? Someone vandalized my pool with food coloring. That's destruction of property. Mrs. Walsh suggested that you might have done that yourself. to justify your accusations against her. Why would I destroy my own property? It's costing me thousands of dollars to fix. People do irrational things when they're under stress. Divorce, new neighborhood, financial pressure. Detective Rodriguez's voice was gentle but firm. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to be direct with you. The evidence suggests you're experiencing some kind of breakdown. Mrs. Walsh isn't pressing charges, but she wants the harassment to stop. Sarah felt like she was drowning. She's manipulating you. She's manipulating everyone. Can't you see that? What I see is a woman who's making serious accusations without solid evidence, who's posted defamatory content about her neighbor, and who's exhibiting behavior that's concerning multiple community members. Call Maria Santos. Talk to her. She'll tell you, Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not going to contact someone from a dismissed case to validate claims that have already been investigated and found baseless. Sarah stared at the detective, seeing her reflection in his eyes, a desperate woman grasping at straws, making wild accusations, unable to accept reality. It was exactly how Karen wanted her to look. So what happens now? Now you go home and leave Mrs. Walsh alone. No more accusations, no more confrontations, no more social media posts. If this continues, she will press charges, and you could face criminal harassment charges. Sarah walked out of the police station feeling like she'd been flayed alive. Karen had won. Not just the battle, but the entire war. She'd managed to flip the script so completely that Sarah was now the villain in her own story. Her phone buzzed as she reached her car. A text from an unknown number. I heard about your meeting with the police. I hope you're getting the help. You need your neighbor. Karen seems like a saint for putting up with you. A concerned citizen, Sarah's hands shook as she deleted the message. Then another came through. Saw the Facebook post? You should be ashamed of yourself for targeting that poor woman. And another, get some help before you hurt someone. The messages kept coming, each one a knife thrust into her already wounded reputation. Karen had weaponized the entire neighborhood against her. Sarah drove home in a daze, her mind spinning through possibilities. She could move, cut her losses, and start over somewhere else. But the thought of letting Karen win, of becoming another Maria Santos, made her sick. As she pulled into her driveway, she saw Mike from the pool company's truck parked outside. He was standing by her pool with another man in a suit, both of them taking photos. Mike, what's going on? Sarah, this is Bill Henderson from your insurance company. We need to talk. Bill Henderson had the uncomfortable demeanor of someone about to deliver bad news. Mrs. Mitchell, we've reviewed your claim for the pool damage. Unfortunately, we're going to have to deny coverage. Why? Our investigation suggests this was intentional damage caused by the property owner. Insurance doesn't cover self-inflicted damage. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet. I didn't do this to my own pool, Mrs. Mitchell. We've spoken with neighbors and local police. The evidence suggests you're experiencing some personal difficulties and may have damaged the pool yourself to support false accusations against your neighbor. Karen told you that. Mrs. Walsh was very helpful in our investigation. She expressed genuine concern for your well-being and made it clear. She didn't want to cause you any additional stress. Sarah looked at the pink water, now fading to a sickly salmon color in the afternoon sun. The repair costs would come out of her pocket, thousands of dollars she didn't have, for damage she didn't cause, all while Karen played the role of concerned neighbor. There's something else, Bill said uncomfortably. Given the circumstances, we're going to have to cancel your homeowner's policy. We can't insure properties where the owner engages in deliberate damage. After they left, Sarah sat on her deck steps, staring at the evidence of Karen's victory. No insurance, no credibility, no allies. Karen had achieved the perfect crime sheet. Destroyed Sarah's life while making everyone believe Sarah had done it to herself. But as Sarah sat there, something Maria Santos had said echoed in her mind. Karen's weakness is her arrogance. She thinks she's untouchable, that she can keep doing this forever. But she's not as careful as she thinks she is. Sarah pulled out her phone and called Maria Santos. Maria, it's Sarah. She won. The police, the insurance company, the neighbors, they all think I'm crazy. I know, I've been expecting your call. What do you mean? I've been watching Sarah, following Karen's pattern. She always makes the same mistake at the end. What mistake? She gets greedy. She can't resist one final twist of the knife. And when she does, she always goes too far. Sarah felt a spark of hope. What do you mean? Karen won't be satisfied with just winning. She'll want to destroy you completely. And when she does, she finally make the mistake that brings her down. As if summoned by their conversation, Sarah heard Karen's back door slide open. She looked up to see her neighbor walking toward the fence, wearing a sympathetic expression that made Sarah's skin crawl. "Sarah, honey, I heard about your meeting with the police. I'm so sorry you're going through this difficult time." Sarah stood up slowly, feeling something shift inside her. Karen was here for her victory lap, unable to resist gloating over her perfect crime. "I want you to know," Karen continued, "that I don't hold any of this against you. Divorce is